Radio 4's film critic Howard Elias joining us in the studio to talk about 3 films, all featuring rising star actors. But before then, to get us into the film mood, let's listen to some music from the film Captain Corelli's Mandolin.
I thought you were starting now, so I turned on we're on live.
Okay.
So I thought we were starting now.
Oh, okay.
So hi.
We're still
so
on.
You get to listen to Captain Corelli's Mandolin with who was in it? Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. It was a better book than a movie. I read the book. Did you read it?
No.
Yeah. The book was good. The movie was lovely.
After this, more back and after this
So
one.
last week, I'm just talking to the camera here, so don't mind me.
Okay.
Last week, people wondered why Leanne was sitting here and Stacy sits opposite. It's because Leanne doesn't like using the soundboard, so we have an engineer on the other side who you can't see. Do you know how to use the soundboard and you just don't?
No,
oh,
I've hit all the wrong buttons.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So that's why. So she's sitting on this side with me, and you get to see her. Normally, you don't get to see Stacy because she's on the other side where the engineer is today. So these are the intricacies of radio in a very small studio. You know, we're supposed to have the backdrop behind us.
Ah.
Did you hear about this?
No.
Oh. So I was told, this was a few months ago, that I wasn't allowed to record anymore because it was going on my personal page and not RTHK's page. And I said, RTHK doesn't have a page. Like Radio 4, Stacey doesn't have a page for this show. So I said, why are you punishing me? Because you guys are too lazy to create your own page. So they got this backdrop that I'm supposed to have behind me now so people know that it's Radio 4. So we're breaking protocol here by not having the backdrop.
Should be.
It's that thing right there.
Oh, right. We can move it over if you like.
Not really. Let them see how beautiful this studio is. How modern. Now, if you're wondering why this studio looks so prehistoric, it's because they actually want to move to a brand new facility, and the government doesn't want to give them the funding to move because not just this station, but the RTHK in general is notoriously anti-government. Even though it's government-sponsored radio, it's anti-government. So the government is punishing the who is like RTHK, I guess the broadcaster. I don't know who it is, but so they're punishing them by saying, no, you can't move until you toe the line, I guess. You know? So we're stuck here in this facility, which was built in the 60s and has had very small modifications, improvements since then. So this is very old here. Is that it? We're ready?
Yes, we are.
We're ready.
Music composed by Stephen Warbeck, and that was music from the film Captain Corelli's Mandolin, and we heard their reunion, and it was music that was written for a film that featured Nicolas Cage, and I have Hong Kong's Nicolas Cage
That's right. That's right. I was wondering if you would remember
right
that.
now with me. Yeah. Famously known as our film critic, and we're going to talk about 3 films today with rising star actors. Lean on Pete, To the Bone, and I Kill Giants. It's a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about.
What would you like to start with?
Well,
first?
let me just say why I'm doing it today. There's a couple of reasons. Number one is this is a slow week in movie land in Hong Kong because last week was the big opening for Dwayne Johnson's film Skyscraper. And next week is the premiere, the opening of Tom Cruise's film Mission Impossible Fallout. And so I think the distributors here were expecting that anything released this week would just die on the vine. So they didn't. So there are a couple films being released this week, but nothing big. So as it turned out, though, Skyscraper has bombed at the box office, and so we're sort of left with very little. So that's the first reason. The second reason is a couple of years ago I started to do something on around this time of year, and I called this series movies to watch on typhoon days, because the typhoon season has started.
Yes.
And we had our T3 yesterday, and it became very popular. So I thought I'll do this every year around this time. So I'm looking at films that haven't come to Hong Kong but are available on subscription services or on disc.
Right.
So, these days it's very easy to watch films that don't come to the cinema. I don't want to talk about the illegal ways you can watch films, but we'll talk about the legal ways you can watch films. So I'm going to talk about 3 films today, and interestingly, they all are, as you said, they feature up-and-coming actors and actresses and directors. So these are people that you may not have heard of, may not have seen, but I think after these films you probably will take notice. So the first film I'm going to talk about is called I Kill Giants. Very interesting title, I Kill Giants. And it's a fantasy, it's a drama fantasy thriller. And very interestingly, most fantasy films that we see on the big screen involve boys, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's a male-centric genre, let's put it that way.
Yes.
This film is about girls. It's about one girl in particular, and there's barely a boy, barely a male to be seen in this film. So for that reason alone, that makes it quite refreshing, and maybe it's worth checking out. So the story is it's about a young girl named Barbara. She's about 12 years old, and she's a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. And she lives on the New Jersey shore in a small community. She lives with her older brother and sister. Their parents are nowhere to be seen. So we don't know where the parents are, if they're around, if they're not around, what's going on. But she seems to be, the older sister seems to be the one who's in charge.
Right.
And Barbara is a bit of a loner at school. She's a bit of a quirky kid. She's shunned and she's bullied by the other kids in school because she has a very active imagination. She, as she tells her new and her only friend, Sophia, she finds, hunts, and kills giants.
Right. That would put someone off for that.
Yeah. So she's obsessed with giants. And she goes around the town and she lays traps for these giants. Sort of poison traps for these giants. Now, Barbara believes that giants cause the world's ills. And it's up to her it's her job to ensure that these giants don't come to this town and destroy the town. So she's got this very active imagination. So at first we think, okay, she's got this, she's got an active imagination. Maybe she's a little bit kooky. But then you start thinking, maybe she's seeing things that the rest of us can't see. Maybe this isn't a fantasy. Maybe this is reality. So it becomes a very interesting film. Now, the film stars, the young girl actress's name is Madison Wolfe. I want to say I've never seen her before, but I actually have seen her before. She had small parts in the film Joy, which starred Jennifer Lawrence, and Trumbo, which starred Bryan Cranston. She had 2 small parts there, so I can't say that I remembered her in those films, but I think now I'm going to look out for her because she was very good. Also stars Zoe Saldana, who people would know from the Avengers Infinity War, the Guardians of the Galaxy series. She's the new Lieutenant Uhura in the Star Trek films. She was in Avatar, and she's going to be in the next 4 Avatar films, which are supposedly coming out over the next I don't know how many years, so she's a very familiar face. And it's by first-time director, a Danish man by the name of Anders Walter. Never heard of him, so there's something you should look for. I think this young girl, Madison Wolfe, she does a wonderful job. She's very, very talented, very emotive actress. For being, I think she's 15 years old, so the film was probably made when she was about 13. Very good actress. The character, she's very cute because she's spunky, she's highly intelligent. She's weird, you know.
With those bunny ears,
Yeah,
yes.
with the bunny ears, yeah. She's a deeply complicated kid. Now, unfortunately, the story does rely upon a big reveal at the end, which exposes a gargantuan plot hole. That when you see this, you think, oh, you know, it's a little bit. I thought the ending was a little bit disappointing, but you know, ignoring that, I think it's an enjoyable film. It's, dare I say, even educational, because it's a story about accepting that bad things sometimes happen to good people. So it's a bit of a coming of age film. So I give this one a thumbs up. I think it's worth checking out with your preteen and teenage kids. So that's called I Kill Giants.
Yeah, and from the producers of Harry Potter, is that right?
Is it? I didn't even know.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, in fact, the music sounds very Harry Potter-like.
It does, yeah. I think that was intentional. I think that was, yeah.
Yeah, lots of Celesta sort of magical sounds.
Yeah, yeah. And interesting, you know, very good CGI for the monsters. And this film was made on a very low budget.
Right.
So it shows that you don't have to have $100 million movie to do good CGI. So, okay, I liked it. It was good. You know.
Okay.
Second film is called To the Bone.
Yes.
Now, I know this is going to be a tough sell because it's a film about a young woman who suffers or struggles with anorexia nervosa. But I think this is a good film for what it is. It's not a tearjerker TV movie of the week disease. You're not going to be bawling your eyes out. Look, I cry all the time in movies. I'll admit it. I did not cry at this movie, not because it's bad, but you know, I think it's a very realistic portrayal of people who do suffer. Is suffer the right word? Struggle. Struggle.
Yes.
I don't know that I guess they do suffer, but I think struggle is the correct term. Who struggle with this condition, right? And there are really superb performances, beginning with the film star Lily Collins, whom I've never seen before. She was in a Korean film last year, an art house film called Okja, O-K-J-A, which I did not see. It came here to Hong Kong, but I didn't see it. But I would like to see more of her because I thought she was excellent in this film. So the story about this film is she plays a young woman, about a 20-year-old college dropout by the name of Ellen. She's an amateur artist who gained a substantial following for her drawings of an anorexic girl that she posted on her social media page. And one of these drawings, unfortunately, sadly, sent a young girl into an emotional tailspin that resulted in her death. And that really affected Ellen and her own state of being. Because Ellen was struggling with anorexia too, but when this young girl killed herself, it really affected Ellen, and she just started going into this downward spiral as well. And she had gone to a number of inpatient programs, but none of them seemed to work because, truly she just did not want to get better. You know, she felt guilty about it. She did not want to get better. And at the request of her very chatty but well-meaning stepmother, Susan, she agrees to join yet another program run by a Dr. William Beckham, played by Keanu Reeves, of all people, that he's in this movie. And
big name.
Yeah, big name for a little film.
Yeah.
And this Dr. Beckham is known for his non-traditional treatment methods. So she moves into a group home with 5 other young women and 1 young man. So there's the 7 of them in this young film. All of them are struggling with anorexia. Some days are good for them and some days are bad. You know, each of them has their good and bad days. There's very good scenes about how they deal with it, how they hide it from each other, how they hide it from the doctors and the psychologists. And there's one scene where they're talking about which is the best food to purge. It would be funny if it weren't so tragic. You know, it's this is what I liked about this. This is what I liked about this film. It seemed very real.
Right.
And
are they all female in this recovery home?
Well, there's one guy and the others are girls. So
one guy.
Yeah, so one guy and 6 young women. They're all in their early 20s. You know, they're all around the same age. Now, the reason why it should seem so real is because it was written and directed by Marty Noxon. This is a name you may not know, but if you whether you do or you don't, she is most well known for writing and directing the I think the last 2 seasons of TV's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is her big thing, and I love Buffy. Did you ever watch Buffy?
No.
I loved it. And apparently it's loosely based on her own struggles with anorexia. She had anorexia herself.
Right.
And so, this is,
It's close to the bone.
Yeah, close to the bone. And if it seems real, it's because it is real. I don't know how much of it is real, but, it's probably quite close to what she experienced herself. And very interesting, the actress, Lily Collins, who plays young Ellen, she also battled with anorexia. She said in interviews. I don't think they knew that when they hired her, but she did say it afterwards. So this really adds to the film authenticity. Apparently, Collins, the actress, she lost a fair bit of weight for the role. She's never revealed how much weight, but she said that lighting and makeup and hair and costumes really made her look much thinner than she really was. But there's scenes. She says there's one scene where you do see her just in her underwear, and you see how bony she really is. Right. But there's other scenes where they show her spine
visiting the doctor.
Yeah, you can see that in the trailer. Yeah. She says that was makeup. She says,
oh, really?
Yeah, she says that was not her.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was makeup. So it's really quite scary. So to this film's credit, the story doesn't shy away from shining a harsh light on the various ways these people are hiding their disorder, they're managing their disorder. And I think, also what I really liked is that there was one scene where it showed that Ellen's disorder is affecting her family in different ways. So it's not just the person is struggling by themselves. The whole family is struggling. And I don't know that that's ever been portrayed before, certainly not in film.
Yes, I don't think so. Yeah,
right.
Or even in theatre, maybe.
Right. So I appreciated that. The film's closing act was a little strange. It seemed a bit forced because she had to, ultimately she has to decide whether she wants to move forward or not. And the way she makes that choice was a little weird. Maybe this was the way the director, in fact, did move forward. If it did, okay, it was non-traditional, So I don't know. I don't know how she decided to move forward in the real story, but this one I thought was a little forced. So I deducted some marks off in my head for that. But all in all, I thought this is a really good film about a very difficult subject. I think we all know people who struggle or have struggled with anorexia. I went to school with a girl who had anorexia. I don't know where she is today. I hope she's still alive. I hope she's sorted it out. I haven't seen her in years. So I think for that reason, it's a good film to watch.
Yeah.
So it's called To the Bone. To the Bone. Now, the last film, I've saved the best for last.
I wondered why you chose this last. Lean on Pete.
Lean on Pete. Never heard of this film, but I heard good things about it. Lean on Pete it's more than just a coming of age story about a boy and his horse. It's unsentimental. It's often heartbreaking, but wow, what a punch it packs. And it's a story about 15-year-old Charlie Thompson, played by Charlie Plummer. If you saw the film very recently, All the Money in the World, about John Paul Getty or J. Paul Getty III, I didn't see the film, but he was John Paul Getty III. So you might have seen him. Otherwise, you might not know who he is, but you will after this film.
Yes, and I have to say, I googled the name whether he was related to Christopher Plummer or not.
No, he's not.
No, he's not apparently.
No.
But I'm not the only one who wonders that.
Who wonders that? Yeah. There's also the actress Samantha Plummer, but he's not related to her either. No, sorry.
Plummer's the name.
Plummer's the name. Charlie Plummer. So he plays Charlie Thompson. And the story is he embarks on a journey across America's Northwest in search of someone who can give him a home. And apparently it is based on a 2010 novel of the same name, Lean on Pete, by Willie Vlotton. Now, as the film opens, we see Charlie unpacking sports trophies in his bedroom. He's recently moved to Portland, Oregon from Spokane, Washington. If you don't know your American geography, that means nothing to you, but it's in the Pacific Northwest. He's moved there with his father, and the father's a bit of a lowlife who likes his beer and his women a bit too much for his own good. But he loves his son. But he doesn't have the ability to give the boy what he needs. This is the problem. So he's not a bad person. He's just not a good father, right? And
not connecting.
Right. And though he tries to be a good father, he just doesn't have it in him. This is the thing. Like it's a you know we might want to paint people with a very broad brush, but you see that he tries to do the right thing, but he just doesn't have it in him to do the right thing. But Charlie has this indelible spirit that he makes the best out of bad situations, out of this lousy situation. So this is the way Charlie is, which is just an amazing. You know, if there would be a real Charlie, and I'm sure there's lots of kids out there who fit the bill. These are kids who are going to go places. You know, if they can manage to hold on to that spirit, they're going to be very successful.
So that sounds inspirational.
It is.
It's an inspirational film.
It is inspirational for sure. So one day while he was out running, Charlie comes across a horse stable, and he gets himself a job working there, working for a fellow named Dell, played by the wonderful Steve Buscemi. And Dell is a very acerbic horse trainer who races quarter horses for a living, including an aging horse by the name of Lean On Pete. Hence the name.
Hence the name,
right? Well, it's actually a double entendre.
Okay.
But because he does lean on Pete. Right?
Yes.
Right? You get it?
Yes.
Smart.
Special.
Yeah.
Special.
So Charlie immediately bonds with Pete, or Lean On Pete, let's call him that way. And when he learns that Dell is going to sell the horse for slaughter, he decides to take Pete with him and run away. And along his journey, Charlie puts his faith in various adults, and they all seem to disappoint him. But he remains resolute. He's going to find this place where he can be safe and be happy and be loved, and all these things that this kid is looking for. And
But what's wrong with the horse?
the horse is just old.
Oh, just old.
5 years old, so it's past its prime.
Right.
So nothing other than that, nothing wrong with the horse. But in terms of being a racehorse, a profit maker, no, it's too late for the horse. So even when Charlie's on his last legs, you'd think most kids would just pack it in and turn to drugs and prostitution. Charlie doesn't give up hope that there is this place out there for him, and he's in search of this place. So it's this is really an inspirational film.
But horses are very expensive to maintain.
Well, you're not supposed to analyze it that deeply.
So what happens?
I'm not going to tell you. You're going to watch the film. So the film marks the American debut of British writer Andrew Haigh.
Yes.
You may have seen the films Weekend or 45 Years. 45 Years starred Charlotte Rampling. Neither of these films came to Hong Kong. But I think I want to review 45 Years because I think that's also a good film you should watch. So, but certainly after this, if you watch this, I think you're going to hear a lot more about Andrew Haigh.
He's the scriptwriter as well, or?
Well, it's based on a novel. I don't know that he adapted the novel.
Okay.
Oh, I guess he did.
Yes,
he did adapt the novel, for sure. Yeah. Now, when the film premiered last year at the Venice Film Festival, it received a 7-minute standing ovation.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a good one. So there's a good thing. Now, this young kid, Charlie Plummer, he delivers this powerful, this sensitive performance. You would think he's a real experienced actor. He's been acting for a few years, but he's got so much talent that I think this is a kid you're going to see a lot more of. You're going to hear a lot more of. He really is wonderful. There's one very poignant scene where Charlie meets a young woman who's being verbally abused, or even worse, we don't know, by her grandfather. And when he asks her why she puts up with it, she says she has nowhere else to go. And that's like, to me, that was heartbreaking. And for Charlie, he hears this, and it is heartbreaking for him, but he processes it. Charlie, the character, he processes it, and you can see this in the actor's face, how he's processing it, that he says, I'm not going to be that way. I'm not going to be in a situation where there's no hope. Right? So I thought, wonderful performance, really well written. I can't say enough wonderful things about this film. Lean On Pete. Check it out. And then when everybody starts talking about Andrew Haigh and Charlie Plummer in a few years' time, which they will, you can say, oh, I saw that film ages ago. Howard told me about it. Make sure you tell them Howard told you about it.
Yes.
So those are the three films. Lean On Pete is certainly the best film of the three, but they're all good, and you should check them out. And don't wait for a typhoon to watch them. Watch them anytime.
Thank you.
So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, very inspirational, particularly that last film, and the talent there. Many talents, actually, acting talents to look out for. Well, you've